Hungry Jack's is on rent strike. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I have my stein of coffee and I thought we'd have a look at this article written by Alexis Carey from news.com.au about Hungry Jack's going on rent strike. This seems to be a trend where either individuals or now large corporations are simply unilaterally deciding to not pay rent or to pay reduced amounts of rent. I didn't realize there were clauses in these contracts that allowed people to unilaterally change the conditions due to circumstances beyond their control. It definitely is going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out afterwards. Do you think all these landlords, particularly in these large retail centers, and a lot of them will be owned by super funds, which are part of your investments, do you think they'll take it lying down, or they'll go after Hungry Jack's, or these commercial or retail businesses? And just think all these franchise businesses, how kind are they to their mum and dad investors who invest in these franchise businesses? How kind are the big shopping centers to the small businesses that they send to the hilt over and over again? So let's have a look at this. He's worth a staggering $2.79 billion, but Hungry Jack's Mongol Jack Cohen has told landlords they won't be paid for 3 months. Does he own it all himself? Fast food billionaire Jack Cohen has joined the growing list of Australian business leaders embarking on a rent strike during the illness crisis. The Canadian-born owner of Burger King's Australian franchise, Hungry Jack's, has an estimated net worth of $2.79 billion, according to the Australian Financial Review's Rich List. But despite his personal fortune and the fact that his restaurants are still operating in a takeaway-only capacity during the pandemic, Mr. Cohen recently wrote a letter to landlords explaining his tough stance. We propose to defer, so hopefully they will be paying it in the future. Because here's the thing, guys, you'll still incur the debt. Even all these people who are going on, hashtag rent strike. You can't change a contract one side. That's kind of why the bank loans are a bit funny, aren't they? Because they can change whatever they want without negotiating with you. So it's not really a contract, is it? Because people are still going to incur this debt. Even if you say, I'm on rent strike, you'll still incur it. But then again, laws and rules are now coming in place which are throwing all those things out the window. Government is intervening in the market that much. People should be coming to the table to negotiate, to make deals. As a landlord, you'd be crazy if you could afford to not make a deal with your tenant. So, we propose to defer gross rent for 3 months or until the restrictions are lifted and our company's trading patterns show signs of returning to normal. The letter reads, according to the West Australian. In the letter, he allegedly said the restaurant industry had been especially impacted by the illness fallout and that as a result the business's cash flow needed to be protected during this period. Now, how many people were doing this during the bushfire crisis? There were so many businesses that were affected by that. Is this going to be the new trend, guys? Is this going to be the new trend? And what impact will that have on the property investment market, or those businesses that are listed, the property trusts, the real estate investment trusts? What effect will it have on those? Will you still be pursuing those as an investment, or is this another level of risk? It's going to be interesting. I've got another video I want to do looking at just some of the landlord changes in the real estate sector for the small mum and dad investor. That is going to be interesting to see how that affects the market as well. Mr. Cohen's decision comes hot on the heels of high-profile rent strikes in the retail industry, with retail mogul Solomon Du Prime Investments and shoe retailer Ascent Group both refusing to pay rent during the crisis after voluntarily closing stores and temporarily standing down staff. So it definitely is a messy situation, this whole thing. Last month, well, here's the question. Has the government publicly stated what the plan is or what conditions need to be met in order for the economy to restart, or in order for the lockdowns to be restricted? Then you can plan, then you can negotiate a deal. I think the uncertainty is one of the biggest concerns here. And if it can happen for this, and a precedent has been set, what's going to happen in the future? Maybe safe as houses is no longer going to be the old line that's pumped out for investors. Last month, Mr. Liu blasted landlords across the country for not doing their bit to ease the burden on trading, while the nation's population was forced to self-isolate and the foot traffic in malls sharply declined. He said he will refuse to pay rent for his stores until the social distancing measures were loosened, with Chief Executive Mark McInnes reiterating the call to arms in a statement. So, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I guess there are some clauses. I'm just thinking back to the last retail tenancy agreement I signed. You could get out of it. If you were unable to access the property, like if there's a natural disaster, could this account for that? Could this be part of the conditions for that? Maybe the lawyers need to pipe up in the comments. Premier calls on everyone in the Australian community to do their part in protecting our people and our country from the devastating health and economic impacts of the illness so that we can recover and reopen as soon as possible, he said. Meanwhile, the Australian Financial Review reported earlier this month that Red Rooster's parent company, Carvable Brands, has contacted a Melbourne landlord to claim it would be cutting the rent for April due to the illness. The company allegedly said it would pay half of the rent and outgoings for April within 3 days of receiving signed consent, and would reassess the situation the following month. Mr. Cohen arrived in Australia in '69 and began his fast food empire with a KFC outlet in Perth. He opened the first Hungry Jack's restaurant in Innaloo in Perth in '71, and now chairs Competitive Foods Australia, which operates the Hungry Jack's franchise, which has more than 400 stores across the country. He is also the top shareholder of Domain Pizza. News.com.au contacted Hungry Jack's and Red Rooster for comment. Now here's the thing, he's a shareholder of Domino's Pizza. Does everyone remember all the horror stories of just how the franchisees were treated by these franchise organizations? Again and again and again, where they're losing everything, where the conditions are all put on them, where they need to buy the branded products, where they can get it cheaper from the local supermarket. So, yeah. You've got to remember, guys. This is just adding a world of mess to the whole situation. Just a world of mess to the whole situation. Where do you think it's going to end? Do you think it's fair? Do you think he should be personally liable for it? Or is it understandable that these businesses, due to no fault of their own, have been forced to close down? Should the government be providing payment for this? Or do we just need to cop a loss in some other businesses? Do these landlords need to assume that as a risk too? What changes do you think this is going to have on the market moving forward and on these industries moving forward? It has to impact it. It has to impact it. If we have a precedent set here, it would have to impact it. It would have to affect these real estate investment trusts. It would have to affect these large landlords. And how long will this go on? There's some talk of this finishing in a couple of months' time, but we haven't seen any signs of it. And then if Australia loosens its restrictions, you've got people coming in from overseas to try and lift out our tourism market, we get another wave, restrictions come in again. So I think the biggest issue with all of this is the fact that it's all unknown. And that's going to cause problems. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate your comments and opinions down below. And if you're a fan and you want to help us, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or on Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can send us gold using Gold Pass from the Perth Mint. You can buy our merch from Teespring or HeiseSays blog and support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye for now.